So today I'm gonna be ranking my top 15 rides at Gröna Lund in Stockholm, Sweden, which I visited for the first time very recently. I got to ride a total of 17 different rides. Unfortunately, Insane was closed, the Intamin Saxby. Would have loved to ride it, but it is what it is. I still got to ride all the other roller coasters, a bunch of tower rides, dark rides, and so on. So today I'm gonna be telling you my top 15 of those 17, and if you're wondering, yes, number 16 and 17 are the kiddie coasters, just in case you're curious. I'm gonna be pretty brief about every single ride, but otherwise, let's get right into this freaking thing with number 15, which is Flygande Mattan. Now, Flygande Mattan is a classic Zero flying carpet. It's from 1983. This ride is very weird. First of all, it's forceful. It has a little bit of positive forces, but mainly it's longitude forces that are pretty extreme on this ride. You have very minimal restraint, so you have a lot of space, and you gotta be pushed very hard into the back of your seat and very hard forwards. Like, you fly back and forth with hard force. And I gotta say, that part of it is really cool and pretty fun. What I did not like about this ride was the fact that I had to bring my backpack with me on the ride. And because of the forces, I kept trying to figure out how to properly keep my backpack with me, because it felt like I was gonna lose it if I didn't try hard to keep it. And that just got me through a lot of awkward positions. And in the end, the ride just ended up being really uncomfortable for me. I did not have a very good ride on this, and honestly just wanted it to be done. It's still a really cool ride, but it was just uncomfortable for me. At number 14 is Kettingflygeran. This is a Sierra wave swinger from 1997, and I already have quite a soft spot for wave swingers. I've always quite liked them, but this one particularly is my favorite. The ride itself is just the perfect wave swinger. The swinging itself is really good, but the main reason this is my favorite is because of the location. It is right by the water, and we rode it at night, so we could look at the lights in Stockholm on the other side of the water, and it was honestly magical. And for a wave swinger, this is just an overall really good ride. At number 13 is Eclipse. This is the park's Funtime Starflyer. It opened in 2013, and it's only the second Starflyer I've ever done, but it's definitely my favorite of the two. Eclipse is a terrifying ride. First of all, the ride itself obviously doesn't do a whole lot. It just swings you around like a wave swinger and then brings you upwards. But it's the part of bringing you upwards that is so terrifying, because this thing is almost 400 feet tall, and being up at that height was honestly terrifying. What was really good about it is it's also an experience. It's a very cool experience, and you definitely enjoy the ride as well. But it doesn't get any higher, because there's also a level of me being uncomfortable because of how high we are, but at the same time, it's very cool. It's very hard to rank such a thing as a Starflyer, but I think this is where it fits, to mix the really cool experience with me being freaking terrified. And number 12 is House of Nightmares. This is a walkthrough attraction, and it's a Sally Corporation haunted house. It opened in 2015, and this attraction really has its ups and its downs. First of all, it has amazing theming. The theming in this attraction is really good, and it's honestly just generally pretty good for a scary house. It felt real, it was creative, there were different elements in there, but the bad thing about this house were the actors. There were several actors in there, and there was one really good one that gave a really good scare and some really good acting, but then from there on, the rest of the actors are just not really too impressive. Some actors are just kind of standing there daddling around with a knife, not really being scary at all, and then the rest of the jump scares are just them banging on walls trying to scare you like that. It felt very lazy to that point. Very well done in regards to theming, it's very cool and everything, but the actors just really pulled down, and for me that's just an important factor. But yeah, this attraction is just a great mix of ups and downs. At number 11, we have Kvasten, which is the park's Vekoma suspended family coaster from 2007. This is a surprisingly good little family coaster. It doesn't do a whole lot, it has some helixes, and it basically just swoops over the pathways, and that's honestly one of the biggest strengths of this ride. It's swooping over the pathways and just giving a really cool flying sensation, and it's overall just a very enjoyable family coaster. It doesn't really do anything in regards to intensity. It has a little bit of positives on the first drop, but that's about it. So it's more about how enjoyable the ride itself is. It's decently fun for a family coaster, and it doesn't really need to do any more than what it does. It serves very well as the park's tame family coaster, and I could see this being the kids' favorite ride here. At number 10 is Kärlekstunneln, which is the Tunnel of Love. This is an in-house dark water ride from 1936, so it's an oldie boy. Kärlekstunneln is a really cool little dark ride that has a bunch of really cool elements and storytelling. It has a bunch of little scenes that are very well done done and detailed. Something that's not really cool is the fact that a lot of these scenes are behind a glass wall, which is really weird, but that's just a nitpick really. I mean, the scenes themselves are really cool. Something that's very classic about this ride is the fact that you sit in logs, kind of like a log flume, and you can literally pull yourself forwards. It's a very charming ride, and it is one of the better dark rides I've been on. So overall, a very well-fulfilled little fun classic dark ride. At number 9 is Lustiger Huset. This is an in-house fun house from 1917. It's been very much updated since then, but that is the original opening of it. And I gotta say, this is definitely the best fun house I've ever been on, by far. This fun house is overall just incredible. First of all, it's just incredibly creative. There are so many different elements that goes into it, and so many different things and obstacles to go through. Plus, there's some really nice theming. There are so many different colors. There are sound effects, soap opera music. It's really fun. And it ends off with probably my favorite part of it, which is a wooden triple down slide on a rug that is an attraction in itself. This thing has an operator and everything, and it gives floater airtime. I'm not kidding about that. Overall, this fun house is just really fun, and it always has something to surprise you. It has pretty much everything a fun house needs, and I honestly don't see any other fun house beating this. I just highly advise you to check this attraction out if you go here, because it's honestly just a must-do at the park. At number 8 is Katapulten. This is an SNS combo tower from 2004. This is the third SNS drop tower I've done, and it is easily the best one. What's so great about this is the fact that it is a combo tower, which means that it starts out like a shooting drop tower where it shoots you up and then gives you an airtime pop at the top, goes down, and then it stops, and then takes you up to the top to drop you like a normal drop tower. It's really great. The launch was really fun. The bounce at the top gave some nice flagector airtime, and the drop itself was also very forceful for an SNS drop tower. It's not intimate level, but for an SNS, this was really good. Overall, just a really good drop tower, and really combines the fun by giving two different experiences. At number 7 is Blåtoget. This is the park's signature dark ride. It is a Gossetto dark ride from 2011. It opened along with Twister, the Gravity Group wooden hybrid, and aside from Arthur in Europa Park, this is the best dark ride I've been on. It's a ghost train, but it's not super terrifying and scary. It has a few scary elements, of course, but it's more cool than scary for me. There are a lot of different elements and scare effects in there, and they're just really well done and detailed. There are some cool effects that you just do not expect, cool light effects, great sound effects, great animatronics, and a few of the jump scares are also pretty terrifying. Overall, this dark ride is really well done, and a really cool effect that it also has is that the track is also wonky. It's not just a straight track with a bunch of switchbacks, it also tilts. For example, in this tunnel, the track starts tilting towards the right, which actually makes it feel a lot more like you're really spinning, and on this turnaround and this turn here, it also bangs outwards. Overall, this dark ride is just incredibly complete, and it is definitely a must-do at the park. At number 6 is Jetline. Jetline is one of the park's oldest roller coasters. It is a Schwarzkopf roller coaster made by Sierra and BHS, and it is from 1988. This ride delivers a very good first half and an okay second half. It delivers some great positive forces and some really fun laterals and some really good whip, and it overall has some very nice speed to carry through and gives a great ride. Unfortunately, the second half really pulls it down. The helixes are pretty disappointing, but the positives of this ride are also just great and really pulls it up. It's the best coaster I've been on manufactured by Sierra, and while it does have its letdowns, especially in the second half, the first half is just really great with a great first drop, a great turnaround, a great second drop, and so on. A lot of people has this as their favorite ride in the park, or at least their favorite coaster. I do not, but I still think it's a great ride. At number 5 is Wildermusen, which is a Gerstlauer bobsled from 2003. This is the ride that surprised me the most in the park, and that's because you're thinking, oh, it's a wild mouse, it's a family coaster, it's probably going to be fun, but not much more than that. And it turns out this is borderline a thrill coaster. This coaster is just overall super intense, and that's because all of these switchbacks and turns are just much more powerful than on a regular wild mouse. They're incredibly intense and throw you around quite brutally, while it also has some floater and a few positive forces and a really funky and wonky layout, which is also just really fun. The laterals are definitely just the star of the show on this ride, and they're just incredible. This ride really makes you laugh out loud, and it is very close to Jetline in my rankings. It just barely edges out, and I really think this ride deserves more praise than it gets. At number 4, we have Frittfall and Frittfall Tilt. This is a multi-drop tower from Intamin. It opened in 1988, and the reason it's called Frittfall and Frittfall Tilt is because it has two different options. It has 3 sides, 2 with a normal drop, no gimmick there, but then it has one side that tilts you 15 degrees forwards and is also floorless, which basically means it's a stand-up tower without a floor. I did both of these options. The floorless was not really my favorite. It was kind of uncomfortable, and for some reason it hurt my ribs. I'm not really sure why, but it did. But the sit-down option was really good. It's a very forceful drop and gives a great weightless and stomach-dropping feeling. The height itself is also great. It's 80 meters tall, so you get a great view and great anticipation. Another cool thing about this ride is that it takes your photo at the top, and while I do look happy on this photo, if you saw my first ride, which was the floorless one, I would not be looking too happy because I was as high as I was. Because it was my first ride and I suck ass with heights. But overall, this is just a really good drop tower, and in fact that it gives you 2 different options is great. Moving on to number 3, we have the park's new signature roller coaster for 2021, Monster, the B&M invert. This is a fantastic looping coaster. It's very creative and a very unique invert, and also delivers some great forces. It's a very forceful ride on several points of the ride, while also delivering great floaty inversions and some nice and smooth whip here and there. In fact, you're even gonna get good airtime on this ride. It's an invert that delivers a little bit of everything: theming, forces, airtime, floatiness and whip, and so on. And while it's not super intense, it's just an overall fantastic ride that really gives a good dose of everything. My favorite part of this ride was probably the first drop because it was both whippy and super forceful, and then everything from there is just super fun, as well as just swooping over the pathways because they had to get so creative with this ride. So they just placed it over the pathways, and it was just an additional really cool sensation of the ride. And it's just honestly one of the best, more normal type looping coasters I've been on. At number 2 is Twister. Twister is my favorite roller coaster in the park, and that's because it's a freaking fun little wooden roller coaster with some awesome shakiness, some awesome airtime, and generally just delivers an awesome ride. It's a super small coaster, but it really doesn't have to be big because size doesn't matter with this ride. It delivers some fantastic airtime, especially in the back row. The back row is king and front row sucks. On this ride, you're capable of getting a total of 9 to 10 airtime moments, and they're often strong ejector. There's some floater as well, of course, but that's also really fun. There are a few laterals, of course, and then one thing that really pulls it up is its classic woody shake. Every woody should be shaky to a certain point, and Twister just has the perfect amount of shakiness that is just super fun and really adds to the overall experience. It manages to kill the dead spots so they just aren't dead spots at all, and when you add that with the incredible airtime moments, it just turns out to a super fun little ride that has a big smile on your face all the way through. At number 1, we have Icaros. In my review, I said this is one of the best rides I've ever been on, and I definitely stand by that. This is easily my favorite ride in the park, and just one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had. It's an Intamin Sky Jump 16 from 2017. It's the tallest drop tower in the park, which just really adds on to its gimmick, because what it does is it takes you up to around 300 feet of height and then tilts you 90 degrees downwards. This ride is terrifying, especially on your first ride, and then the drop itself is also just incredible. It feels like a launch, and you just plummet down towards the ground and brake really late with some hard positive forces. This ride is just overall incredible. The view is amazing, the tilt is incredible, the drop is so good, and even the brakes are just so fun. I don't have much else to say about this ride than it's just amazing, and everyone should ride it if they go to the park, if they dare, of course. I totally understand if you don't want to ride this, but please, if you're just at least considering it, do it, because it's an incredible experience. Ride this. It's awesome. That is my top 15 rides of Gröna Lund in Stockholm, Sweden. Thank you so much for watching. So please let me know, what is your ranking of the rides in the park? Give me your top 5, top 10, top 15, whatever you feel like. Besides that, bye!